Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my table once again. Today, I have a treat for you. Today, I have the team from penmancy.com coming in. I have Kajal, Kapur, and I have Rham Dhel coming in to discuss what their journey at penmancy.com has been like and what it has been like for them to introduce and nurture new literary talent. Now, my association with penmancy is probably around 3 years old. When I decided that I would, start writing again, I started looking around and hunting online for literary platforms which would give me the kind of knowledge base that I needed, which would, kind of help me enhance whatever little I knew about the literary world. And that's when I joined penmancy.com, and diligently I would do all their exercises. And that's one of the most commendable things about this platform, the fact that their exercises have remained the same throughout the 3 year period that I have known these two wonderful women. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Kajal Kapur, who happens to be the co founder and the head of operations for penmancy.com. And we have Rham Dhel, who happens to be, again, a co founder, the creative head, and also the chief editor for penmancy.com. So, if you have any questions with respect to editing, that's where you direct them. So, let me bring on these two lovely women. Hello, Kajal. Hello, Ram.
Hi.
Good evening. Hi. It is lovely.
Good
lovely
evening,
to.
everybody.
Yeah, good evening. So, guys, first of all, before we start this session, first of all, let me wish you a very, very happy Mother's Day. Kajal, of course, I know you have a daughter, and a daughter who's really talented as you are. And Ram, I think you have about 1 million children, if I'm not wrong. Like,
I
there's so
think
many
so.
on the farm.
Yeah, I don't know anybody. I don't know, but I have also four leggeds.
Yeah, that's what you
But
have,
it
like a
doesn't mean I
million
don't know
children.
this.
She's a fur
Yes,
mommy.
yes,
She's a
yes.
fur
Yeah,
Fur
she's a
mommy.
mommy.
fur mommy. She's a fur
Universe.
mommy and feather mommy and all kinds of mommy. So, anyways, a happy
Yes,
Mother's Day to you both. And
yes.
it is absolutely, lovely to have you guys here. I was just telling the audience that when I decided that I would, write again. This was, before I met you guys, I was just blogging on Women's Web, or I was blogging on Mom's Peso. And then I joined your platform, I think September 17, possibly it was. And I started with little exercises, and they were like, Kajal knows. My first one was an essay. I still remember it was titled Humanity's Child. It was like a quintil that I'd written. And then, and then you guys very patiently, very sweetly guided me through the process that, Sonal, you need to put in dialogues. Sonal, you need to show. You don't need to tell us so much. So then that's how I got introduced to the different exercises that you were doing. And one thing that I told the audience also just now is that one thing that's remained very commendable about this platform is the consistency of the exercises and the quality of the exercises that we have done. You cover everything, right from dialogue writing to show don't tell to grammar to writing one line captions. Everything is covered so that a writer receives the kind of nurturing ground that they so desperately need, because other places will give you say for example, they'll give you a prompt, you need to write a story. Now the story may do well, it may not do well, but there's nobody really out there to guide you guys. So for that, first of all, my heartfelt gratitude. Thank you so much, ladies, for being there. And with that note, okay, Kajal, we'll start with you since you handle operations. How did penmancy come into being? Like, whose idea was it? Where did it come from? When did you guys decide, and why did you guys decide on this?
Um, so basically, the idea was not the idea to have a writing platform was not
Mm-hmm.
really a unique idea to us. We were already a part of a couple of writing groups where we met. Actually, Ram and I met over a writing group. But
Okay.
what we were actually seeking, probably in a writing group, was not what we were actually receiving. So probably when we got together, we wanted to go ahead and create a space where people could actually kind of learn from each other, feed off each other's creative talent, and basically, a transparent place where people can express themselves without being judged. So I think that is probably the genesis of Penmancy, and that's what actually brought us together. We wanted to have a place where people can actually write and not feel like,
Judged,
aimlessly
basically.
writing, basically. Aimlessly
Okay.
writing. If you're really serious about writing, you'd want to go ahead and figure out what are the things that you can enhance in your writing, what are the things that you can build up on, what are the things that you do good and you would want to go ahead and share with the other people so that they can also learn from them. So that's the kind of space that we actually aimed at preparing, and to some extent, we are almost there after 3 years of this much of work. I think we are safely in a space where people are taking responsibility of really kind of their own creative work, and they're also sharing best practices with the people around them.
Right.
So that's about it.
Okay, so that was the initiation of Penmancy, right? So now you guys got together, you decided ki we'll launch this site. Who came up? Okay, Rham, this is for you. You are the creative head at Penmancy. So did you alone come up with all these exercises that you've made us do over the years? Was it your brainchild?
And no, not actually, because when I started writing, I mean, I was participating in Write India before, and then it's kind of while I wrote my stories, I get to search also online how to write this thing, how to write that, and somehow I got introduced to all these kind of exercises like show don't tell, for example, because it seems like most writers are focused on telling, and showing is actually much different and more effective in depicting or describing a story, describing a person or characterizing somebody. So I kind of, even then when we have not started it, I already had the idea that we should introduce this kind of exercises, because they are the kind of the crucial point, the crucial part of in a story, in writing a story.
Right.
So I just introduced it, and then it kind of hit in the platform, and it's quite good. So it's like
actually,
that, like
honestly
not my
speaking, that's one of the that's like one of the best exercises at Penmancy, because as writers, we read the work of other writers, we read books, right? We don't really connect to this show don't tell part, because although we can visualize a scene, we don't understand how we are supposed to translate it when we write our own work. So for us, it becomes like the old man stepped out of the house, the old man walked on the road, the light from the overhead lamp fell on his face. That is the text which comes out. So it wouldn't be in detail, the old man, of course, he stepped out of the house, but he's got to open the door. Then he needs to step out. Was there a puddle of water in which he stepped? Those are the kind of things that this show don't tell has actually taught us and brought out. So we've practicing this, we've become, I would say, as writers, all the people on this platform, they have learned to be more visual in their work. So that's another exercise, I think, which I really appreciate, and you guys have been diligently doing, is pen scent. The drabble. Okay, Kajal is nodding. Okay, fine. Kajal, you tell me, why the drabble? What is the significance of it?
Yeah, so dabble is basically aimed at bringing in a story in exactly 100 words.
Right.
It has twofold benefits. First, it kind of restricts your word limit. So it kind of restricts you to go ahead and build a story from one end to another in those many words, which is not a very easy thing. People find it difficult to go ahead and concise their text, and go ahead and showcase a story as well. It is not just about writing 100 words, but it is also about displaying a story, telling a story in those many words. That is one benefit. The second benefit is it goes ahead and tells us what is the writer's thinking process, plotting. So it kind of highlights and tells us that the story is not baseless. It is not just about one incident. It is about layers of incidents in a particular text, which can be brought in 100 words. So if we see a promise there, then we call it a perfect dabble.
Okay.
So that is why it has been there, consistently over these years, because it kind of helps the writer to go ahead and kind of focus their thoughts and
It's
bring
more,
their thoughts
it's like a
together as to
précis
how.
of the lengthier story that they would write. So it's
Yes. So
some
if I
similar
go
kind of
ahead and
exercise.
look at perfect drabble, I should be able to go ahead and conceptualize it into a bigger picture.
Right.
I would
So
want to
would
go
you
ahead and say,
say,
okay, इसका कुछ background लग रहा है, या इसका कुछ एक back story होना चाहिए, या okay, this can be expanded into a bigger length story. So I think that is a perfect drabble, and that's what we keep looking for. And this also helps the writers when they're writing the bigger pieces to go ahead and make their scenes concise, make their scenes effective in that sense. Because it's not just a couple of lines that they are concising in a paragraph. They're actually telling a story. They're telling something. It has a meaning. So that is basically to give practice to that.
So do you think, Kajal, that, you know, when a person comes to penmancy.com, suppose a new wannabe writer has joined the platform, okay? Now, there are so many exercises they'll see on a daily basis, right? Of course, they can interact with other writers, and everybody is pretty helpful in making people understand, you know, these are the exercises you should do. As the promoter, how do you think that a new writer should navigate penmancy.com? What kind of exercises to be picked up first, what to transcend into, and what would that translate to?
First of all, the identification of what is it that I want to go ahead and write. If you want to go ahead and write poetry and you want to find different ways to express yourself in different genres of poetry, then go for Fried, go for penmuse.
Right.
Yeah, so then that is where, if this is what you're exploring. And if you're looking at honing your skills in various spheres of short story writing, then there is a whole lot of things that Rham project on the Facebook page as itself every day. Once there is a dialogue writing, there is vocabulary building, there is grammar, there is what else is there? There is
there's drabble.
Show don't tell. Show don't tell. So I think that this question really belongs to her because she's like a mistress of all of this.
So let me come with that too. Let me come to you, Rham. When it comes to, the same question to you in a different manner. Okay, I'm a newbie writer. Suppose I come to penmancy.com. I don't know anything about you guys. I've just seen your website, seen the Facebook group, and, you know, the interactions look interesting. I want to write short stories. How do I start? Or rather, what should I start with on your platform so that my creativity is going to be enhanced?
Actually, that actually depends on what kind of writer you are, you know. I mean, because we have these kind of exercises, and I recommend doing this memlog, because we always, you know, we have dialogues with ourselves, with other people, and somehow that is kind of a comfort zone in us, you know. So it's kind of, if a new writer does that, it's already like he's already in his comfortable zone. So it can maybe it's easier for the writer to begin, and then if he's comfortable in participating in other exercises, he can go ahead and try this show don't tell. And we also have some writing articles to do that, to help help them prepare more.
I've noticed there are a lot of articles on penmancy which help you through the process of writing, you know, the little things, the nuances. Right. So I would
Yes, those articles are quite concise, you know. I mean, it should be concise, we're direct to the point. So what you get, what you read is what you get. So you only need to apply it to your writing. So yeah.
So from a creative viewpoint, Rham, can you tell me when it comes to short story writing, or rather the progress that a writer should show from a creative viewpoint, what is the one area that you have found in your experience which needs most improvement in a newbie? Is it dialogue writing? Is it the descriptions like show don't tell? Or do you think it is the vocabulary part which is missing? Because a large component of concising text is vocabulary, good vocabulary backed by, you know, good grammar. So what do you think in terms of a creative growth is more important out of these three?
Well, I won't deny the the importance of having this vocabulary and grammar, good grammar, because that being a writer, we should know at least how to construct our sentences.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
then on for Penmancy focuses on the content, the depths of your story, even if it is, no matter how short it is, no matter how, whether it is 100 word story, 50 word story, or even if it is just a one stanza poem. We focus on the depth, the message, the depth of that content, because
Okay.
basically, as far as my experience goes, most of us really fail in that area where we put a deeper content to our write up.
Right.
So I think that is where the focus should be. I mean, writers' focus should be the depth, the content of what you are writing, because I mean, you always, at the end of the day, you always have to ask yourself, how does my story differ from other stories, or how does
Right.
my poem differs from, because everybody writes from for the same prompt. Okay, so
Right.
how should I deliver it as though it is different from the others? So we have to focus on content, because as far as the classic authors are concerned, they always focus on universal themes, and those lifelong themes that we can read again and again and again. So even if our grandchildren will be able to read them, I mean, it's still valid, because the depths, the depths are there, content
The
is
reader
very
can still
good. And
connect to that
yeah,
particular story,
yes,
irrespective of the age
Eventually,
it is written.
so eventually, basically, what exactly, in terms of writing exercises, so those are basically just presented so that people can really kind of practice and, kind of basically get into the practice of writing every day. That is the aim. But the
yes.
ultimate thing really is the creativity of the writer, the imagination of the writer. So
Right.
how, like Ram said, the timelessness of the work. So even today, if I go ahead and kind of think about some author, say Jane Austen or any of the classic writers, we won't say, oh, her language, her grammar was very different. I won't say that. I would say that the story was good because I could empathize with with the characters. I could
Right.
feel that those writers were trying to connect to me. The text was such that actually, even if I read it today, it will make a connect with me, and that is what it is. Basically, it is distinct from everything else that is probably out there. So in the eventually, people can learn grammar, people can learn sentence construct, people can
Right.
learn the narration, but the imagination, the way that you express yourself,
Creativity.
is very personal to the writer, and that needs to stand out from everything that they're
So you
actually
mean that
writing.
the emotional quotient needs to be really high in any story, be it any genre, any setting, any kind of characters you can put, be it, like the protagonist could be an animal or it could be a human being or anybody, but the emotional quotient has to be high to enable the writer to connect to the reader, because that's what the
Absolutely.
reader will take away basically, right?
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. So if it is a comedy, and if the comedy makes me cringe, then it's not worth it.
Right.
Then it
Obviously.
is not comedy.
That reminds me of some horror stories that I've
Wrong
attempted to write.
genre.
They end up sounding really horrible, and that's the horror element in there. And then afterwards, I read them myself and I laugh. I'm like, by God, what the hell have I written here? I can understand that point completely. So, anyways, okay. So let me come to you, Ram. 3 years down the line, are you satisfied with the level of creativity you have achieved at Penmancy? Are you satisfied with where Penmancy is today? Or are you think that you're
Uh,
lagging behind? You should have done a lot more by now.
I kind of consider myself as a procrastinator. So it's like when it's so
You're a
I know
procrastinator. Oh my
I
God.
won't say I'm satisfied with what we have, but I mean, for 3 years we have come so far, because even then we didn't really imagine how far it goes. I mean, it's like I always tell Kajal, let's see how it goes, let's see how it goes. Let's see what I mean. We don't know what happens until we are in it. So I always have that kind of mentality, like let's see
you
what
live
happens.
in the moment. You live in the moment and you follow your dream at the same time. So I can
And I
understand
always
that. Okay.
yes, and I always have that, like there's always room for improvement. There always room for
Absolutely.
growth, so the most important thing is you are willing to diversify. You are willing to adapt to the changes around you. So based on what we get, the kind of feedback we get from our members, we tend to cater to them, and try to solve it so we can have some better ways to solve the problems, and better ways to handle things, and better ways to create events and introduce more creative prompts. So we have that focus.
But on that
So
note, Ram, let me compliment you, because the prompts at Penmancy have always been very different. They've always been very unique. So we've had, for the past 1.5 years, in fact, I've noticed that the level of participation has increased a great deal, and the kind of stories that are coming out, they're well thought out, well structured, creative pieces. I mean, people are really putting themselves out there, because
yes.
a lot of it is owed to the prompt. I mean, the story cannot come out unless the prompt makes a writer think. So the catchphrases that you guys are coming up with, so that's been really commendable. I have to, thank you guys for that. And I think most of the audience here is going to agree with me, because they have benefited from it as well.
No, when it comes to prompt, it's always like Kajal and I like Ram. What should be the prompt? And then okay, we can.
Right.
What is your suggestion? What is your idea? And then we discuss it together, and somehow we
Do,
come up with
do you
one
guys
thing.
have do you guys have a little mason jar in which you put a lot of chits, and then you draw one out and you go, oh wow, this will do well. We'll put this prompt.
So we do actually keep a pool of prompts. We do go ahead and keep a pool of prompts. But when we are actually discussing about the monthly prompts, especially harness writing, when we discuss about the prompts, we kind of really the first question that we ask each other is, how many stories would be similar sounding in this?
That's most important. Yes, a lot of cliched stuff would come out otherwise.
If the stories from a prompt are going to, if we expect that if they're going to be similar sounding, then we drop that prompt, and we probably go ahead and pen it for another month and then rethink. But usually that's the thing, that when we put out the prompt, we kind of hope and expect that people will go ahead and look at the prompt, not just at the face value of what it's saying, but the layers. They would like to feel the layers of the prompt, and then find out what else can be done. So I know a couple of months ago, we just randomly picked up one picture which really did not make any sense to us also. And we just threw it to the group. And I remember the kind of hue and cry the group really made, that what absurdity is this? This is like the worst thing that you could have actually inflicted us with. And everybody threw a fit that we are not going to write for this. And eventually, the stories that actually came up to us were highly creative. They were so creative, and that is where basically we get all that encouragement from, because the writers are so forthcoming. They want to go ahead and experiment. They want to go ahead and bring out something which is unique, which is their own, and they want to take ownership of that. And that is why I think prompts become so important. That
Absolutely.
And we do want to go ahead and give a lot of thought to them before we go ahead and propose them.
No, I personally,
and we always
agree.
Ask, actually. We always ask. Kajal will always ask, what kind of stories we get if we present this.
But that's really important. That's really important. And I completely agree with you on that, Kajal. Personally speaking, the more difficult a prompt, the more it will make me think, and the more I enjoy writing for it. Of course, I'm going to cuss for a good 5-6 days when I receive the prompt. ये क्या दिया है, this is absolute dash 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 whatever bleep bleep. But then when you actually start thinking, there so much creativity emerges. Why? Because your mind is thinking in 10 different directions with a difficult prompt. You're trying to fit in genres simultaneously, you're trying to fit in plots, because the cliched stuff doesn't work there. The things that you draw inspiration from daily life and yahan wahan dekh karke, that won't work. So you really got to exercise those brain cells. So I agree completely that it is the more difficult a prompt, the more creative is the output, and that actually brings out the best stories, some of which I've read on the platform of late, like for the past 1 year. They've been brilliant at it. I mean, I initially, when I read the prompt, I thought, my God, isme to nobody would be able to write. What is this? But then when the stories started coming, and they come like in 2 days flat, I'm like, I'm still thinking. This story is out also. So, but they're highly creative. So that's very, very commendable. On that note, tell me something, Kajal. Currently, right now, what is Penmancy? Penmancy was a literary, I mean, when I joined it, it was a literary platform which was nurturing and introducing new talent, right? But now you're also publishing books. So where does Penmancy stand right now? How would you caption Penmancy?
I'm not really sure if there is a way for me to caption Penmancy, but what I can really tell you is that when we started off, we just wanted to go ahead and build a community of writers who can basically write together and enjoy writing. And just for the joy of writing, people should be there, without thinking of what is in it for me, because there were so many other platforms who were giving out certificates, points, gifts. But that was never our focus, really.
Right.
We just wanted to go ahead and promote good writing and encourage people to, kind of experiment with their writing, come out with their thoughts, bring out more value in their work. Of course, along the way, we did go ahead and start giving out books as a way of prizes, but sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. But that's not our focus. If people win, good for them. If they don't, that doesn't make them any lesser than the other. So that is what basically the focus is, that people should be encouraged to write the best work that they can for a particular prompt or for a particular theme. They should be able to express. They should have this space where they feel secure enough to go ahead and showcase their work. Because bringing out your own work, bringing out your own writing, it does take a lot of guts, especially when you know that there are people out there who are going to who are going to critique it. So we wanted to go ahead and create the space where people feel safe, people feel transparent enough to go ahead and showcase their work. Eventually, of course, over a period of time, we did realize that people would want to go ahead and see if their work is any good to be taken in the market, taken to the market. So we experimented with a couple of anthologies. We've developed 2 anthologies over the last 2 years where people submitted their work, and some of the best work we got from the writers, and we compiled them in those books. So that was a way for us to also understand how far the writers would want to go ahead and bring out their work. But eventually, nobody would really want to go ahead and, if you're really a serious writer, you would not want to go ahead and stop at that and say, okay, mera anthologies mein maine publish kar diya, now I'm done. You would want to go ahead and go solo. You would want to go ahead and write a full-length novel, or project your work on a bigger platform. So, uske liye, what is it Penmancy can do? So we came out with this event called Pitch Fest, where people could go ahead and pitch their ideas, and they could write a story on their own, a solo project which they can take further from end to end. So we basically we joined hands with the publishing agent, the book makers, and we thought it would be a good idea if an agent is brought along rather than a publisher, because the agents would be able to go ahead and check or pitch the books from various genres.
And book makers are fantastic at that.
And book makers is really excellent at tapping the right talent. So we wanted to go ahead and do that. And then from there on, if the writers really are ready and if they are, they want to go ahead and take that leap, then we should be able to go ahead and bring that springboard. So we are happy being a springboard for the writers at this point of time, and where we can find their space in the market on their own, and we can help them in whatever way that we can. We're there to cover your back.
Let me encapsulate whatever you've said in very few words. So today's Mother's Day. So what you're doing is mothering us babies, and one fine day you're aware that we're going to leave your nest and probably take a flight someplace else. But then the mother remains the mother. So we'll come homing into you at some point or the other.
Well, that's I'm privileged. I'm privileged to know that you think that way, but that's basically not the intention. The intention is solely that whatever we are doing on the ground, if people find value in that, and if they can go ahead and fly solo, we'll be happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll be happy, whether they return or not, because there are so many people who just flew away and they never look back. So we're not worried about that, because that is not our agenda. It is basically we just want to go ahead and create the safe place where people can actually take their flights from. And if we are able to do that, if we are able to go ahead and provide that springboard, we're happy doing that.
Okay, there's a question from Monica. She'd like to know what the future of penmancy is looking like, and what can writers look forward to in the coming years. So she's home to roost. We can safely say Monica is home to roost. This baby is not leaving anytime soon.
So for that, I think part of it I've already responded to in my previous question response as well, because and as Rham also said before, I don't know, she vanished. That
she has connectivity issues.
She had connectivity. There's a power issue in that area.
Right.
So, anyways, as Rham also said that whatever it is right now, we do go ahead and keep a tab as to what are the changes that are happening, and if we can go ahead and adapt to the changes that are happening in the world. If we find that space, we do go ahead and expand there. But we are not in a competition. We don't want to compete with anybody. We don't want to go ahead and spread our wings saying, oh, हम लोग आर्ट में हैं तो अब हम कुछ भी करेंगे, हम गाना भी गाएंगे, पेंटिंग भी करेंगे, थिएटर भी करेंगे, सिनेमा भी करेंगे. ऐसा नहीं है. So we're not in a competition. We are just thinking of nurturing writers, and that's where we are. Nurturing readers and writers, though. But abhi readers ko push karna is like a challenge right now. But then still, I think this is where we are. And to answer Monica's question particularly, we are actually moving in that space where people can actually go ahead and get themselves promoted and published through us.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so
okay, that's really great. Yeah. So you plan to transition into a full-fledged publishing house as well?
Not really, not as of now. We don't know what the future holds in store for us. We haven't really planned on those. And right now we are going to go take step by step. Like, of course, Monica says Pitch Fest 2 will come. We do want to do that, because I think that is where that is what basically the new writers really want. They want to know what is happening in the publishing world. They want to go ahead and get a taste of because so many questions when they go directly approach the publisher and their work gets rejected, they really don't know where to head to or what to do. Why was the work? They don't get those answers. So with a Pitch Fest, they are amped up with the perfect ammunition to go out in the world and say, okay, now I'm prepared for the publisher, to face the publisher, and I know if it's going to be rejected, I know exactly why it's going to be rejected.
Right.
So I can work on it. But so this is what we are actually hoping to do.
I think personally, honestly speaking, I think the Pitch Fest, it is a fantastic idea. Why? Because of all the reasons that you did say now. But I think as a writer, there are two very distinct journeys that a writer needs to take in order to become one. The first journey is what penmancy is all about. It is about starting small, learning to write better, honing your craft consistently, and then churning out stories which are good, which are accepted, which are liked by people. And then after that, you come to the second part, where, as you say, the writer, in case they want to fly solo, then there are certain things that they need to do again, and then they again start from scratch, just like they did at Penmancy a while back. So then you need to understand how a concept note needs to be written, how a synopsis of the story needs to be written, how you're supposed to, what kind of a cover mail needs to go out to a publisher. So I think what you've brought together is a synergy of both of these things, which will come in really, really handful to all writers who want to eventually get a book out, So that's something very commendable, Kajal. And I hope you come up with a Pitch Fest, 2.0, like Monica is saying, because we have a lot of fantastic writers on the group. And I think a lot of them are ready to, come out with solo books at this point of time, because their writing is that up to snuff, basically. So on that note, one thing that I would like to understand, Kajal, from you, because you've been a writer for such a time, you've had a book published and all. What I want to understand is, if it is a writer, they have, for example, come onto a writing platform like literary platform like Penmancy. How would you suggest, if the writer has a 1 year plan, which would they come, that I have 1 year, in this 1 year, I am here, I need to go here. That is the level of elevation I want in my work. What would you recommend the writer do in order to reach here? Because the publishing industry is still somewhere over there. So what kind of steps do they need to take?
Okay. So I'm very fortunate to go ahead and mention that today we do have some writers on our platform who are published writers, who are published authors. They have their books out in the world, and still they are writing with Penmancy, in a hope that Penmancy would be instrumental in bringing out some more nuances in their writing, and that kind of gives us a lot of encouragement, because the initial aim was that any or every writer is able to go ahead and write write over here on Penmancy without the fear of being judged or without the fear of being ridiculed. So I think वहां तक तो पहुंच गई कहानी. अभी आगे क्या? The thing is, initially we did get a lot of flack where people said कि why critique? Why because there were publishers who were writing, and when their work was critiqued, they got really miffed, and then they left in a huff and puff. But our aim was never to put anybody down. We just wanted to go ahead and discuss various things in a particular text which can be helpful to others as well. So if I am critiquing, say, Sonal's story, then Monica, because she's on the screen, not because Monica wants to improve, but Monica should be able to say, okay, this is the feedback given to Sonal, but if I take care of this aspect in my story is going to shine as well.
Absolutely. So then, I agree.
Then that is the whole aim of community learning is. We are not trying to say that you are good and you are bad because you won 3 contests and you haven't won anything. That's not what it is. We're not pitting anybody against anybody.
It's not about winning. It's about the continuous learning process.
Correct.
Right.
Community learning, so that we can learn and absorb from each other. And I think we are all good writers and at different levels of our journey. अभी ऐसे ही होएगा ना, because I started 5 years ago. You started 10 years ago. So maybe you learned more skills than I did, but that does not make me a bad writer, right? I'm still learning as much as you are learning, right?
All of us are learning.
We are at different we are at different junctures of our learning, and that is what it is. So if a person who has already reached a certain level of their writing and are looking forward to improve themselves, Rham is back. If you're looking forward to improve yourself, then it will come from you only. अभी मेरा आगे का journey क्या है? Now that I've achieved so much, what are the other things in my writing which I see lagging and I can find value in this community and find feedback on my work in this community so that I can improve. So that is where we want to go ahead and create this space.
Okay, there's one more thing which I would like to add here. My personal learning I'm going to share here with the audience as well as you people. I learned not just by doing all the exercises and trying to, really work on the feedback that I got from different people. I also really learned when I started reviewing other people's stories. That taught me. I used to read reviews not just for my story but other stories diligently. Why? Because if I liked somebody else's story, I needed to know what could be better in that. I mean, that writer was probably far ahead of me in any sense. So if their story could be judged, then mine had all the right to be judged because mine was way beneath theirs. So I learned when I started reviewing, I realized that you learn more as a reader than you do only as a writer. Reading is far more important. You can't just imbibe things. You need to criticize it, come up with a rationale in your mind. You need to analyze what data you have been presented with. And that's something that, Kajal, I think you have repeatedly encouraged people to do on the group. That, read more, read the stories by others, learn from the feedback that has been given. Right? So thank you for that. Yeah, that is something that I really learned on this platform. Rham, coming to you before you disappear again. Okay.
So sorry about it because my internet just went, and I was struggling how to figure it out.
I can understand. Okay, my question to you is, if a person should randomly come across penmancy.com on the internet today, what are the kind of creative inputs that are available on the website? What are the things?
Actually, there are plenty. Yeah, there are plenty. Whether it's they're a reader or a writer, I mean, there are plenty of things in the platform because we have this book nook, we have book reviews, have writing articles, and we have flash fiction. We have the longer version, harness writing, and we have poetry. And so far, for the last few months, I've been introducing different forms of poetry that. Actually, those forms are not on my own. I just was able to scout and find them somewhere else, and I get to use them.
Every month you come up with a different form, and I have not seen a form being repeated in 3 years since I have been a part of Penmancy. No form has been repeated.
We get a lot of beating on that also. That's why does she? Why? Because I have
syllables. I hate syllables.
Why do you have to? Yeah, why do you have to stick to that syllables? I mean, people are finding it difficult watching people. She's so adamant. Nahi, this is what we want. This is what we want to give.
No, but you know what? Initially, Kajal, I was also like that. God, I still, whatever happens, I'll always be doing free verse. I hate syllables, but syllables do serve a purpose just like dabbles do. You need to understand how to concise. Otherwise, people ramble in poetry and they kind of put down a 500-word quintil as poetry. That is what would eventually happen. They don't realize. I mean, I had no clue what enjambment meant, Rham taught me. That, Sonal, this is where you're going wrong. Everything is correct except this part. What are you doing here? So these are little things, that we've learned from you people over the years. And so apart from this, like creativity, tell me something. Do you guys intend? Now let's talk a little about your future plans. I've already spoken to Kajal about them. Do you guys plan to come up, Rham, with a mentoring program or something like that? Have you visualized anything like that? You can pick up some key writers and have them mentored by some published writers possibly, so that their journey, not like the Pitch Fest, that's different, but just a mentoring program. Have you thought about anything like that for the writers? You have? Kajal is dying to say something. All right, Kajal, you speak.
That is actually in the pipeline. That is in the pipeline. Okay. It hasn't materialized much. But we do go ahead and hope to have some kind of a mentoring session where people can enroll themselves. And it's going to be a very closed circuit interaction. It's not going to be like a
live thing.
Yeah, it's not going to be open to all. It would probably be just by invite. So we're still in progress. So we just got talking.
I think that's a fantastic idea. It's a fantastic idea, I think, because that kind of grooming it's very rare to receive that kind of grooming on a writing platform. You bringing everything to these writers, and all they have to do is just consistently write and avail of the benefits that are coming their way. So that is really, really commendable. Okay, I have a question for Rham now.
Okay.
This is something that a lot of these
are fogging all the limelight, yeah.
Okay, sorry, because our lighting is really horrible. Hopefully my face is, visible.
Rham, you are well cocooned in the lap of the Himalayas. You're completely excused. You are the most fortunate amongst us all today. I mean, we are all closeted in our homes, and you are every day you post pictures of your treks and stuff, and I'm like, where does this woman stay, man?
Yeah, because we're quite free here actually.
Right. So, okay, my question is to you. This is something that has been asked many times on the platform as well. People asking who are judging our stories, how are our stories getting judged, on what criteria are they getting judged, why am I not getting marks, why am I scored so low? So can you for once and for all address that and tell us, Rham, when a story comes to you, what are the criteria on which you will be judging a story, short story, and on what gets one particular writer that slight edge over another co-writer?
Well, actually, apart from we're quite transparent when it comes to those, those scores or those percentage that we are taking from each, from each entry. So we're quite transparent of how much you get. If you're quite confident, if you are focused on those, if you are writing based on those criteria, then probably you get a better advantage. But then we should always remember that when it comes to literature, it's always subjective, so it doesn't matter how good or how, according to you, how good or according to your friends, how good your write-up or how good your poem or how good your story, but there will always be people who will not like that, or who will have a neutral assessment for your own work. So
reading choices differ. I agree.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, but on Penmancy, we always keep saying that we always focus on the content, the depth, whether it tackles about very important social issues that should be there. That whether your writings will become the foundation of some change later on, because that's how our society evolves, from what writers are writing. We don't necessarily keep on going back in time and keep on writing about slavery. We have to
read and then we form our opinions.
Yes,
right.
That's
I
how
agree.
that's how
I
it
agree
is.
completely.
So, yes. So that's how we are focusing here on Penmancy, and we always we are not biased people. We try to be just as much as possible, but we always have different opinions about many things. So we should always just remember that literature is it's purely subjective. It's not. I mean, do we try to make it as objective as possible by introducing ratings, by introducing polls, and we're introducing all this where to get it, if you grammar, for example, or content, or emotional impact, or creativity, all those things packed together. Then we come out with the scores that we probably expected. But whether who is judging or who is reading your story, it always affects, so we should not try to focus on winning or something. Yes, we should not try to focus our attention to winning. I mean, it's like you have to, our focus on Penmancy is like you strive for yourself, so you become better.
Right.
Yes, you don't compete with other members, because everybody is unique. Everybody has their own field of their field of comfort, where they write something that they're comfortable with. So we try to compete with ourselves so that we become better. From yesterday we become better today, and we become better tomorrow. So that's how our focus. So we do that by trying to what I have written something like, we feed on each other's creativity. We if you know something, somebody knows something, we encourage them to share it with others, so that other writers can learn. And if you know something else also, it's the same process. It is circle of learning that we learn from each other. So we kind of focus
Right.
that in that area. Yeah.
Okay, understood.
So
Now
I'm so
okay, yeah. We know where Penmancy is currently, okay, what you're thinking about. There are some ideas that I'm going to throw at the both of you. Tell me what you think about those ideas and whether they are doable or not. This I'm speaking purely from the perspective of our writers, so that they also they also understand. Now, you've already brought out two books. Now, one was, of course, a paperback and a digital volume. The other one, Shattered, was completely a digital volume, right? You have a
yes.
considerable amount of good content on the website now, right?
Mhm.
Do you
Mhm.
think in future, like you would bring out more books, choose a few, handpick a few stories and bring out more books? Like they could be just digital books, maybe for poetry, or it could be just a drabble. A lot of people like reading these little pocket fiction kind of stories because they're not very keen on the lengthier versions. So
Right.
is there any such plan to pick up good material from the website and then reach out to the writers and bring them out like this?
Kajal.
We do, yeah. So there is this poetry book which is in the concept level at this
Yay!
point in
Yay!
time, but it's going to be it's not something which we are going to kind of originate from here on. It is already over there. We just have to basically compile it and thread it
Right.
together and then bring it, because in this National Poetry Month, last month we did a 15-day runoff
Yes, I
for
know.
poetry on our page, on our group. And surprisingly, quite surprisingly, we really did not expect the kind of turnout that we had, and some of the some very good work actually came across. And we don't want it to go waste, so we will go ahead and compile it into a book. But it's right now in concept, and we've pinned it somewhere. But it is going to come out shortly this year itself.
That's very nice. That's really nice. I just feel that the kind of stories that I see, because the kind of prompts that we have had, I speak only from that perspective. Some of
Okay.
the prompts have been really very unique, like versions was a way out prompt. Okay. We read stories like that, but we never write them. Why? Because we don't understand how to construct a story from different versions, from different point of views. So that was a fantastic prompt. So when I read a few of those stories. I couldn't comment in detail, but then I was blown. I was like, my God, these writers were able to visualize somehow what you girls were thinking. This needs to be done like that, and they were able to translate your vision. So it would be fantastic if you could collate some of that and bring out some of the stories, like in the form of a book. And I'm sure that book is going to really sell because there'll be so many writers from the platform buying
Fingers
that
crossed.
work. Because so, any other thoughts of bringing out another anthology or anything like that, like Fallen Leaf or Shattered? Anything in the future?
I think
Kajal
I
always
think
have lots of
I'm,
ideas.
yeah. But from the creativity point of view, I think it's a very good idea to bring together write-ups from brilliant writers and put them together in a book and then kind of publish it. But from the viability point of view, it's a lot of hard work.
Right.
There's a lot of hard work that goes behind compiling a book, and if the results are not as favorable, then it's disheartening. Because we have encountered writers who are too shy to go ahead and talk about their own work, and we don't really blame them, because some of the writers are really very apprehensive of saying, oh, meri kitab padho, meri is puri kitab mein ek choti story hai. So people don't really want to go in that space, and that's okay. We are not judging anybody's choices, but what we're saying is that eventually it is a lot of hard work to bring out a book, and if it does not reach as many people as you've expected, then it's an effort wasted.
It's an effort
So
wasted.
yeah, and that is why we're more focused now on getting people published on their own. people who really are serious to go out into the world and explore the publishing world, we would want to go ahead and back them more than anything else. So that is what the
noted.
focus is, right?
Point noted. Now, on that, with that thought that you just had, I can vouch for what you're saying. It takes a lot of effort to bring out a book, and one thing that I have come to realize since I pitched my, book out was that writing is only 10% of that part of the entire thing. Writing is the easiest part in bringing out a book. It's after the 10% that the journey actually starts, and just reaching out to publishers or other publishing the book, and after that the publicity, the promotion that you need to do, of your own book. It's not just your work which is going to speak. How will people know about your work if you don't speak about it? People have to know first in order to pick up your book. So that's a huge 90%, 90 percentile, which most writers don't realize. It's a pretty uphill task. And I think that's probably one reason why it makes so much sense to do this pitch fest or to get mentoring done, so that, young writers can understand what they are up against. Because it's a whole different world out there. And it's a mad, chaotic world. Yeah, you have so many publishers, and they're offering you contracts, and somebody will say, we'll give you 10%, somebody will say 5%. Oh, you publish with us, it's self-publishing. You give us 2 lakh rupees and we'll publish. So it's a chaotic world. How to make sense of that if eventually you need to get published? So that's why your efforts, whatever you guys are doing, are very, very commendable, and I thank you for those, because I thank you on behalf of all the audience as well. I know they'll be really grateful. So on
that is what taking a cue from what you were just saying right now, and I will translate it for the benefit of for Rham's benefit later. But जो लिखना है वो आंसू देता है. When you're writing, you cry a lot because you're sweating a lot and you're crying and you want to re-edit and fine-tune it. So लिखना आंसू देता है और marketing खून के आंसू देता है.
सही बात है, बिल्कुल सही बात है.
So when you're marketing your book, that's when you actually bleed.
और वो खून के आंसू बहुत दर्द देते हैं. They hit you from every goddamn space out there. So I completely agree with that. But okay, before we are almost at our time up limit, so before we end the session, there's something I want to know. When can I read a solo book written by Kajal or by Rham? Or maybe co-authored? When can I read that? I'm waiting for that.
This one is working on hers.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Good. How many animals in that, Rham? So far?
So only one species, humans are there. So let's see if I can introduce some, four leggeds or, winged and hooves.
Without that, it wouldn't be a work by Rham.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
So Kajal, what about you? What are your plans?
मैं पिछले 3 साल से एक नोवेला लिख रही हूँ.
So Kajal, did my entry to Penmancy put a stop to that? Maybe things are clear. I think
as soon as I get some time, I'm going to get writing. So my husband for the last couple of days, I've been constantly talking to a lot of writers and everything, interaction a lot. And my husband keeps overhearing my conversations with them, and he's like, सबको motivate करती है, रोज लिखो, खुद भी लिख लिया कर कभी रोज.
Right. I think at times
every day you're asking everybody to write daily, but you don't write daily. I mean, what is it? Like, so I have to find time to write daily now.
I think the point is that you possibly, because you're doing this, you've got a job, you've got your home responsibilities. We as women, I feel that men find it easier to pen a book. Why? Because they have a lot of free time on their hands. They don't have so many household responsibilities or the responsibilities of a child. So that, men, a male author can bring out a book, like in 6 months' time. We probably would take like 3 years to bring that out. Because firstly we need to find the time to write, and then typing, not everybody has a great typing speed, so typing takes time. Some people are like 2-finger typists, dire clack they go. So that exactly, that takes time. So anyways, Kajal, I do wish you all the best. I hope that you find the time, genuinely I hope because like I said, a few of your stories resonated with me really, because they were very, very emotional for me. And Shiraz, I think, was one of my favorite stories. I've told you repeatedly that I've read your earlier work, but that had something that, I could relate to it. And as far as Rham is concerned, Rham, there's a story of yours. It was not written for Penmancy. I think you submitted it on some other platform. It was a story about a man with a monkey, a pet
Yes.
monkey. It was a I think some other platform you written it on, but I really liked that, because the kind of emotions you brought out in both the man and the monkey and their perspectives. Yeah, the two versions. so that
The
was,
Great Escape.
yeah, the Great Escape.
The Great
So
Escape.
it was actually it was eye opening for me. I read it, I think, 2.5 years back, and that story has still stuck with me because of the manner in which you were able to bring out the entire plot line through the emotions of both the characters. And I think after this session, possibly you'll have to post a link to that on the group, because people are going to start asking about that. But on that note, thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. It's been amazing speaking to you. And it's great to actually, it's great to put voices behind the faces that we know. And as far as the Pitch Fest is concerned, it's one commendable endeavor, I think. And on that note, I'd like to tell my audience that a follow-up to this session will be on the 23rd of May, when we actually have Suhail Mathur from Book Bakers coming in, and he will be guiding writers on the process of submitting manuscripts and how the book bakers can help them get published. So that, I think, would be the perfect lead out to this session. So thank you so much for coming on to this show. And any message you have for the writer friends, one last word, like motivation for us.
Right, Devi.
I can hear your husband tapping on your head pretty soon. Okay, Rham, anything you'd like to say to the audience, Rham?
Well, if they are really particular in writing, they have to, write where you are comfortable with. Don't mind whether people say you should try this genre or you should try this genre. I mean, you are the one who's going to write something, so you write something that you are comfortable with, because you will never be able to write something where your mind or your thoughts are not in it. So if you like thriller, then write thriller. If you like romance, write romance, but do it, don't make it ordinary, make it extraordinary. That's all I can say.
Right. Yeah, right. We would tell Srimati's, and Srimati's logged out, so I'm pretty safe in saying this here now. And so I used to tell Shri, okay, Shri, you gotta stop writing ghost stories. You've written so many ghost stories, and we call her the queen of the Bhoot Brigade, the Ghost Brigade. So,
but it's not wrong to explore,
Yeah, it's not. That's what she told me once. She said, no, I spoke to Rham in detail about this, and Rham told me that, stick to the genre, stick to that. Bring out different subtexts within that genre. Bring out different emotions, different genres within that, but stick to your core area. So that's something that, I also learned from when I had that conversation with her, and I hope she doesn't see this anytime. So she's like,
it's okay, she'll be fine.
Now this woman is labeling me nationally. But thank you so much, guys, for coming on board, and thank you so much for sharing all those insights. I'm sure that the writers out here are going to be really, they'll be motivated to write more, and I hope to see many more stories. And I hope to be more regular in writing and reading on the platform. Before Kajal points that out to me, let me just say
so many things on your plate already, Sonal.
So many things. Yeah. So I have to make time, like Kajal has to make time for writing that novel. So I have to make time for this. So Kajal, that's a pact between you and I now. We have to do that. Yeah.
Better have that pact.
Right. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi.
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 I actually, the truth is my data was over, so I called my friend to because I cannot access Airtel itself because there's no data. An idea, I have lots of GB there, but it's not working. I mean, no internet at all. Idea, so